Hey, what's up, NFL nerds? We're back with another 2019 NFL tier list. Now, last night we had actually done the 2019 running back tier list, and I've got to say, a lot of people liked it, a lot of people hated it. Um, you know, I I liked how it brought up a lot of controversy, and that's kind of what I was going for. I'm glad that people were able to argue about it, give their opinions. I like that. So today we're going to be doing the wide receivers going into 2019, and before I get into this, I want to mention I'm only doing each team's number one wide receiver right now. Um, even if their number two wide receivers, really good, like say Stephon Diggs, or the Bengals even have Tyler Boyd, or the um the Falcons have Calvin Ridley, Browns have Jarvis Landry. You know, even though a lot of these teams have good number two wide receivers, they're not the number one wide receiver on the team, which is why they're not on this list. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to be starting off with Adam Thielen. Now, he started off 2018 amazing. First 9 games of the season, he had at least 100 receiving yards, and he was looking like one of the best receivers in the NFL. Like, I knew he was good before, but I did not expect him to, pop off and have that big of a season. I don't think any of us did. He definitely proved to us that he, can have a big season, and I think he'll continue to do that. I think he'll have another big season in 2019. I'm gonna put him in the great tier. I don't think he's had quite as many big years to really be qualified as elite, but he is definitely up there. Next is AJ Green. Man, I've got to say, I feel bad for the Bengals. They always suffer with bad injuries, mostly with AJ Green. I think AJ Green is honestly one of the most talented receivers in the NFL, but he doesn't have all that great of a quarterback, and he always gets injured. I'm going to go ahead and put him also in great. But if he was, healthier and, honestly, if he had an even slightly better quarterback, I think he'd be able to be pushed into elite. But that's just my thoughts on that. We have Allen Robinson here. He had a pretty decent season. I think he's one of these receivers here that not a lot of people are really talking about. Now, I mean, of course, when you talk about the Bears, of course you talk about their defense first, because, without their good defense, they wouldn't be near as good. But he's definitely one of those wide receivers that is pretty slept on. I think he has good chemistry with Mitch Trubisky, and I think he'll have another pretty good season in 2019. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the good tier. I don't know that I would really put him higher than that. I might even say average, because there are a lot of very good wide receivers in the NFL. But I'm gonna give him the benefit of a doubt and say he is good. I think another year with Mitch Trubisky, they'll work up more chemistry there, and I think he's gonna have a better season. Alshon Jeffrey. Now, this one I was unsure who to put for the Eagles. Honestly, I think Deshaun Jackson is gonna be their number one wide receiver. I'm not sure. I don't know what their their depth chart is looking like. I don't know how the season's gonna go yet, but I feel like Deshaun Jackson's actually gonna, come out and have a bigger season. Personally, in my opinion, I think Alshon Jeffrey is a little bit overrated, and I don't really see him as, really all that great of a receiver. I think their best, pass catcher is easily Zach Ertz, and I don't think he's really all that great with them. So I'm gonna put him in the average tier. The next we have here is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper was always one that we knew was good. We didn't really put him in the same tier as one of the great wide receivers. But I think when he went to the Cowboys, just the impact that he had on that offense, and how much better they did after they got him, I think that's enough to put him at great. He's always had at least solid seasons, and I think we're gonna begin to see how good he really can be. I think if he would have been with Dallas the whole last season, I think they could have, ended up 11-5, 12-4, and he could have had honestly, probably a 1,200 receiving yard season. So I'm gonna put him at great. He's not quite to that elite level yet. There's really not a whole lot of receivers that really are, but there's a lot of great receivers. So I'm gonna put him right there. Antonio Brown. I know I'm probably gonna get hate for this, but let's be real. He's an elite wide receiver. He's had 6 straight seasons of at least 100 receptions and at least 1,200 receiving yards, and multiple of those were more than 1,500 receiving yards, and he had 15 touchdowns in 2018. Now, his status is kind of unknown right now. The Raiders don't really know where he is right now, or if he's going to play. He's talking about maybe never playing football again because he can't wear his old helmet, but I guess we'll see. I personally think it's just kind of a facade to, kind of attract attention and be like, oh, Antonio Brown's not playing. And then right when the season starts, he's going to, pop off and have a good first few games. I don't think we can deny that he is an elite wide receiver. Now, personally, yeah, I think he's a real crybaby. He's turned into a real diva. I don't think anybody can disagree with that. But he is a damn good receiver. I don't think we can argue with that. Next we have Brandon Cooks. I'm kind of on the ropes with this, whether to put him as good or great. But if you ask me, I think he would be classified as good. He's very close, to that great tier. But if you look at the number 2 and number 3 wide receivers on the roster, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, they're both really good as well. I think they kind of overshadow him a little bit because there's so much talent on that roster. I think Brandon Cooks will have a really good year and could possibly move into the, great tier next year. But for right now, I think good is kind of where he belongs, and I think he's definitely one of the better receivers that will be in the good tier. Next, we have Corey Davis. I'm going to put him in average. Now, I know he has the potential to, grow into more of a good receiver, but it's kind of hard with Marcus Mariota as your quarterback. Personally, I find him to be not that great of a quarterback. To be completely honest. I think he's pretty overrated. I don't see. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't think Corey Davis is really. Now, if you were to put him in a system like Pittsburgh Steelers or Atlanta Falcons or something like that, then or Kansas City Chiefs, yeah, he'll have a good year, and I think he'll get more attention. But for where he's at right now, I think he deserves to be in the average tier. Next, we have Dante Pettis. He had a pretty good year. I'll admit I didn't get to watch him a whole lot. He was kind of one of the names that I had heard later in the season and was like, who's Dante Pettis? Like, I've never heard of this guy. I think he'll have a decent year. This will, I think, depend on the health of Jimmy Garoppolo. But I think he could potentially have a pretty good year. I'm gonna put him average right now. I think he'll at least perform, pretty well. I could see him with, 600-700 receiving yards. Pretty notable, but for number one wide receiver, it's just not quite to that expectation yet. Devontae Adams. Now, I do think the Packers are a bit overrated right now, but Devontae Adams is definitely one of those bright spots on that offense. Well, on that whole team. He had an incredible year in 2018, and I think he'll be able to do it again. I think he deserves to be in the elite tier. This next one, this is obvious. I don't think this is one that really needs to be debated. We all know DeAndre Hopkins is elite. People compare, him and Julio Jones to be the best receivers in the league. I agree. I personally think he's the best receiver in the league. I think he has the best hands. He is light on his feet. He's really quick. I think he's the best receiver in the league, and that deserves him to be in the elite tier. Next is DJ Moore. Now, DJ Moore he had kind of a good, slept on, but also kind of frustrating rookie campaign. There were a lot of games that he didn't get many snaps. Multiple games that he didn't even get any targets. But later in the season, he was getting more targets and started having pretty good games, particularly that game against the Lions where he had, I think it was like 180 receiving yards, give or take a few. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I'm going to go ahead and put him in the good tier. But I think, if he can perform well and show everybody how good he really can be, I think we could put him in the great tier at the end of 2019. But I think this will be a big, prove it year for him. Next is Emmanuel Sanders. He's one also that is a bit slept on, and on an offense that doesn't really have a whole lot of other talent. And obviously they have Phillip Lindsay, and they have Royce Freeman. But other than that, they don't really have a whole lot of offensive talent. But I think he's one of those that are it gets overshadowed because, you know, they don't win a lot of games, and so people don't really realize how good he is. I'm not going to say he's a great wide receiver, but I think he deserves to be in the good tier. Next is John Brown. Now, John Brown, he was actually one that I actually picked up in fantasy late in the year last year, and had gotten me a few points, but I don't know really how 2019 is going to go for him. I see Josh Allen, taking a step up and being a little bit better of a quarterback in 2019. But John Brown he just hasn't really shown to be, that guy yet. I think I'm going to put him in below average, but I think he has potential to be at least average, maybe even take that step up to be a good receiver. I think this will be another prove it year, and it'll just depend on how he does in the Bills system, Next is Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to go ahead and put him in the great tier. He did very well as being the number 2 receiver behind Antonio Brown. He racked up, 1,400 receiving yards? He did phenomenally. I think if he can get another big year like that, I think we can start calling him elite. But after, just 1 year like that, I think we've got to put him great right now. I think he's got to start outperforming guys like, Devontae Adams and Michael Thomas and Tyreek Hill and guys like that. And then we can call him elite. Julian Edelman, I think he's a bit overrated. I'll be completely honest. But he is very good in the playoffs. Of course you got Tom Brady as your quarterback, so of course you'll, be pretty good. I think he's better than some of these average wide receivers. But I honestly think he's one of the less talented receivers in the good tier. But I think he does deserve to be in that tier. Next, again, no questions asked, Julio Jones is elite. He's also debated to be the best receiver in the NFL. I don't think that's something we can really argue about. He's proven it year after year after year. I don't think that's something we can argue about. Next, we have Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen is great. He runs excellent routes. One of the best route runners in the whole game, actually. He's not the fastest, but he makes up for it with his route running. He has great hands. He's at least quick on his feet, too, so after he gets that ball, he's dangerous. I think he'll be great for a lot of years. I think he has potential to evolve into maybe an elite wide receiver, but he at least deserves to be great. Next is Kenny Golladay. He's another big sleeper. A lot of teams do not really realize how good this guy can be. I think did he have 1,000-yard season in 2018? He was definitely one of the bright spots in that in that Detroit Lions offense. So yes, he had 70 receptions for 1,063 yards. If that's not qualified as good, I'm not really sure what is. I expect him to have an even bigger year. I'm going to put him at great, but like DJ Moore and Brandon Cooks, this is a prove-it year, and if they have really good years like that, then they can start being called great. Next is Kenny Stills. I'm going to go ahead and put him average. You know, he is kind of overlooked because he's on, kind of a poor Dolphins offense. But, I mean, he would be a good number 2 or number 3 receiver on, any other team. But he doesn't look like that number 1 guy. I think he can deserve to be called average at least. He has the talent. Who knows? He could end up having a really good year and have people look at him a little bit more, but I don't really see that quite yet. Next, Larry Fitzgerald. Now, if we're going, all-time career, I'm calling him elite. But based on, both 2018 and how I think he'll do in 2019, I'm going to call him good. I expect him to have somewhere in the range of 750 and 900 receiving yards. I do still expect him to be that number 1 receiver with them. I expect him to, have at least a noteworthy year. I don't think there's a single person in the league that dislikes Larry Fitzgerald. But even in overall gameplay, this guy he's good. If they had a better quarterback too, I could see him having more than 1,000 yards receiving. But I don't think Kyler Murray is going to be, that big game changer yet. Not in 2019 at least. Maybe in years to come. But in years to come, I think Larry's going to be gone and, he's taking a small step down each year. He's still good, but he's not what he used to be. I think it's fitting to put him in the good tier. Next is Marquise Lee. I'm going to put him average, but he did have some very good catches in 2018. Man, there were some catches there that completely wowed me. Like, I remember one, I don't remember who they were playing, but he had this crazy, one-handed sideline catch, and it was being talked about for quite a while, and it was just a phenomenal catch, and, I think with Nick Foles, throwing the football, I think he'll have a little bit better of a year. I'm going to put him average right now. He's another one that I could see, evolving into a good wide receiver. Michael Thomas, I think I'm also going to put him elite. He is one of the biggest reasons why that Saints offense is so explosive. He has, some of the best hands in the league. He runs good routes. And he's a game changer. If it weren't for him, that Saints offense wouldn't be quite as explosive. And, man, I think it'd be disrespectful to put him in any tier other than elite. Mike Evans has also put up very good numbers. And man, if he had a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or Matt Ryan or any other really good quarterback, he would honestly be possibly the best receiver in the NFL. This guy is a machine. I know people are gonna get angry that I'm putting him at elite, but man, behind a good quarterback, this guy would be crazy. He already had over 1,500 receiving yards in 2018. This guy is phenomenal. Odell, I'm gonna put him at great. There are a lot of people that are putting him as a top 5 receiver, but I don't see him quite there. He's top 10, probably even top 7, but I don't think I would quite put him top 5. It's hard to say, but he will have a good year with Cleveland. Next, Paul Richardson. Guys, he only had 280 receiving yards in 2018. That's not that good. If I remember correctly, the Redskins were last in the league for passing yards. And they're still trying to find, that guy to be at quarterback. But I don't think Paul Richardson should ever be the number 1 receiver on any team. I think he's honestly probably the worst number 1 receiver in the league. It's kind of weird saying worst number 1 because it's kind of an oxymoron, but it makes sense, in this case. Robbie Anderson, I'm also going to put him below average. Now, who knows? He could be a little bit better if he had, a bit of a better quarterback, but he doesn't. He gets in trouble. I just don't think he's really all that focused on football. I don't think he's all that focused on growing, and he's another guy that, he'd be a solid number 2 receiver on any other team, but he shouldn't be that number 1 receiver. Next is Sterling Shepard. I'm going to call him average, despite being on, that New York Giants team with I'm just going to say a washed up quarterback. Despite all that, I don't think I think he's actually a pretty solid receiver. Another one that I wouldn't, really quite put at number 1 on a lot of teams, but it would be a very, very solid number 2. But I think it's fair to at least put him in average. T.Y. Hilton, I'm going to go ahead and put him at great. He's a guy that not a lot of people really notice, but he makes a lot of good plays. I think he had 1,200 receiving yards in 2018, and I'm wanting to say like 9 or 10 touchdowns. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But he's very slept on. Not a lot of people really, notice that. But I think he deserves to be in the great tier. Tyler Lockett. Now, guys, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but he's good. He's not great, but he's good. With Doug Baldwin being gone, he'll have a little bit better of a year. He might break 1,000 yards receiving, but I think so many people have said that he's so slept on that he's really no longer slept on. You know, he's kind of just, you know, good. I don't see him being that big of a breakout player. I see him just, you know, he's good. He's solid. I'm gonna say Tyreek Hill is great. I was kind of on the border of putting him maybe elite because not many players have that kind of speed that he has and, you know, that kind of ability. After this year... Hey guys, sorry for that quick cutaway. So I had finished recording the video there, and it kind of cut off at the end, and it didn't really show where I was putting Tyreek Hill and Willie Snead. I decided to put them as great. Well, put Tyreek Hill as great because not a lot of players in the NFL have, you know, that type of speed and that type of ability. Now, of course, you know, when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and you're the best receiver on the team, of course you're going to have an amazing year. That's kind of a given. But I think he is still growing and could evolve into one of the game's elite wide receivers. Then I put Willie Snead in average tier because we just haven't really seen him have, you know, a standout year.